As a fragile ceasefire hangs by a thread, did a last-minute power play in Tehran blow up Trump's carefully staged Islamabad peace plan before it even took off? With Iran's delegation reportedly packed and ready to fly, did a sudden internal message from Tehran slam the brakes and halt the Islamabad trip at the runway? Were President Pezeshkian's allies sidelined in real time, as Mojtaba's camp stepped in to block any push towards serious nuclear talks with the US? With Pezeshkian's camp on one side and Mojtaba's guards on the other, who actually runs Iran's war, and who truly has the power to sign off on peace? As Washington watches the chaos, Trump is openly mocking Tehran, saying Iran can't figure out who its leader is, but is he misreading a dangerous internal struggle? And if Iran's generals keep outgunning its diplomats, can any real, durable Iran-US peace deal survive beyond the talking points? As ceasefire talks stall and deadlines loom, did Iran's internal power struggle block the Islamabad trip at the very last minute and freeze the entire process? Reports suggest a deep rift between Iran's political leadership and hardline power centers ultimately blocked negotiators from boarding their flight to Pakistan. According to Iran International, the delegation was ready to fly to Islamabad when a late order arrived, abruptly telling them to stand down. Sources say allies of President Masoud Pezeshkian clashed with Mojtaba Khamenei's hardliner loyalists, each side pushing a different vision of how far talks should go. One message from Mojtaba's inner circle, Iran International reports, was enough to kill the Islamabad trip outright and reinforce who really calls the shots. The note allegedly banned negotiators from entering any nuclear discussions and sharply scolded the foreign ministry team for overstepping their mandate. Faced with such strict red lines, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is said to have argued that flying to Islamabad under those terms would be pointless theater. Araghchi reportedly warned that talks without nuclear space would serve no purpose, and could actually doom any future chance of real progress. Earlier, a U.S. team led by J.D. Vance had been preparing to travel to Pakistan for a second round of face-to-face negotiations. That visit was then put on hold when Iran failed to finalize an internal position, leaving Washington waiting for clarity from a divided Tehran. Trump responded by extending the ceasefire window, saying he was giving Tehran more time to prepare a clear response, but also warning the clock is still ticking. Meanwhile, Trump has seized on the drama, using Truth Social posts to mock Iran's infighting and project U.S. leverage. On April 23, he wrote that Iran is struggling to determine its leadership, portraying the factions in Tehran as confused and divided. He has previously described Iran's government as seriously fractured and unstable, using the narrative to claim pressure is working. Trump said, and I quote, "Iran is having a very hard time figuring out who their leader is. They just don't know. The infighting is between the hardliners, who have been losing badly on the battlefield, and the moderates who are not very moderate at all, but gaining respect, is crazy." Unquote. Trump said that a renewed round of peace talks is possible very soon, with the New York Post reporting his comments about fresh negotiations with Iran on April 22. According to that report, the next round of negotiations could take place within the next 36 to 72 hours, based on U.S. and Pakistani mediation assessments. This development came after Iran earlier refused to participate in a second round of talks in Pakistan, citing concerns over U.S. positions and ongoing pressure. Iran's foreign ministry had said the U.S. insists on some unreasonable, unrealistic positions, accusing Washington of maximalist demands and frequent changes in stance.
Indeed, we were steadfast in the negotiation process because we know what matters are our focus and what matters we cannot accept. Some matters, we clearly said from the beginning, are not acceptable to us, and insisting on them by the U.S. will not change our positions. I think our positions are very reasonable and fair. Unfortunately, the United States has a hard time learning from past experiences. The United States insists on some unreasonable and unrealistic positions. Regarding the incident, the targeting of Indian vessels, that you referred to, our relevant authorities are currently reviewing whether it was indeed carried out by our forces. The incident is under investigation. We are still in a state of war. It is true that a ceasefire has been announced, but unfortunately it has been met from the very beginning with repeated violations by the United States. and the announcement that Iran's ports and vessels would be targeted by the United States has complicated the situation. Until such a situation exists, we cannot speak unilaterally about the normalization of traffic in the Strait of Hormuz.
Earlier reports said the U.S. had given Tehran roughly 3 to 5 days to respond to a permanent ceasefire proposal, linking the brief extension of the ceasefire to Iran's reply on a broader deal. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters that President Donald Trump has not set a hard deadline and that the timing of Iran's response would be flexible. Leavitt noted that Trump has shown a bit of flexibility by extending the ceasefire, allowing Iran more time to weigh the U.S. offer without an immediate hard cutoff. She explained that this flexibility is intended to give Iran's leadership space to deliver a unified response, rather than a fragmented or internally contested position. The White House said that the ongoing negotiations with Tehran are focused strictly on Iran's nuclear program, distancing the process from broader regime-level demands. U.S. officials have outlined clear red lines, including preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon and securing the transfer of its enriched uranium stockpile as part of any agreement. Iran, however, has instead proposed to downblend its enriched uranium rather than hand it over to the United States, offering a compromise that would reduce enrichment levels without full physical transfer. Meanwhile, conflicting reports continue to circulate about internal divisions within Iran's leadership, with U.S. officials suggesting that the political and military wings are not fully aligned. U.S. officials told Axios that there is a clear disconnect between the civilian-led negotiation team and Iran's military and security leadership, creating a fragmented decision-making environment. Anonymous U.S. official said, and I quote, "We saw that there is an absolute fracture inside Iran between the negotiators and the military, with neither side having access to the supreme leader, who is not responsive." Unquote. Meanwhile, Tehran has rejected the current model of U.S. pressure and has not yet committed to a concrete timeline for resuming diplomacy on Washington's terms. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has said that the U.S. naval blockade is the main obstacle to genuine negotiations, arguing that talks cannot proceed while Iran's ports remain under siege. Iran's parliament speaker and lead negotiator, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, has also insisted that pressure-based tactics will not work, warning that coercion alone will not bend Iran's negotiating posture.